Hello, Mr. Minnick here, helping my AP and Honors Java students learn how to write and implement methods. So I'm at this website, CodingBat.com, and it's a really good resource that we happen to use here at this school. And we're using the Java section of it, and I'm in the Logic-1 section of the Java area. And let's take a look at perhaps this exercise right here, Love 6. So when I click Love 6, it opens up. Looks like I've already done that one, so I'm going to go to the next one. Here's one that's blank. The name of the problem is in1To10. And the goal is to write code that when I click Go, it gives me a bunch of green passed test cases over here, which means it works. But first, before you write any code, you have to read and understand the given problem. That's the first step of the programming process. So I read the specs, the specifications as I sometimes call it. Given a number n, which by the way is passed into the method as a parameter there, I must return true if n is in the range 1 to 10 inclusive. So you better know that range means the numbers between two endpoints, and inclusive means including the endpoints themselves. So I need to return true if n is inside that gap between 1 and 10. Well, for now, I didn't read the rest of the problem. Unless the variable outside mode is currently set to true, in which case I should return true if it's less than or equal to 1, or greater or equal to 10. Oh my gosh. I sometimes take the specs to something and I perhaps copy and paste them and I put them in a comment statement right above the code that I'm dealing with, so I can kind of zoom in. In this case, I'm going to kind of break it up. This is sometimes just good organization, not just because I'm turning this into a video. So I'm sort of indenting my code and framing it as an if statement. So if n is in the range of that, then return true. So I'm moving this down, and I'm even going to indent it like the language Python kind of requires you to indent. And check it out. I'm pretty much taking my pseudocode and I'm turning it into real code. That sort of would work if I compiled it. Well, I'm giving the number n. That's coming into my parameter list of my method. The method must return a Boolean. This is the return data type, and all methods are generally public, at least in this school year that I'm teaching you, Java. And I like my curly braces, my beginning curly braces, to be down here, so that's that. For now, I'm typing return true just to make it happy, and I'm putting the required semicolon. I'm going to click Go and show you what happens. This website will run your code and try to make it show that it works. Well, it currently works with all these possible values for num. 5, it's green. It's okay, it works. But 11, apparently when 11 is passed in as a parameter, it's not working right. Apparently it must return false instead. Hey, let's type the word false and just hardwire it to always return false. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. I'm getting more red. Either way, I fail this exercise. So this is just a temporary stopgap by hardwiring it to return true or false. So now let's start turning it into working code. Do we need a loop? Heck no, there's nothing that needs to be added up to a running total. Do we need other things that we've learned this school year? Well, we haven't learned much, just loops. So let's begin with our if statement. So I'm going to hit tab here and type if n is in the range of 1 to 10, but you can't type natural language like that. If n is greater than 1 and less than 10. But they said inclusive, so I think I need greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 10. But we do know from previous learning, especially in Python, but also here in Java, that when you have the word and joining two different parts of a Boolean compound expression, you need to repeat the parameter, or in this case, the parameter or variable. So far, so good. Hey, never do this. Never declare and set a variable like n to 0 as a local variable when it was passed in as a parameter. That is never something you want to do. In fact, it's probably illegal. It probably gives you compile errors. You're supposed to know that n is equal to some number, and you don't have to set it equal to something. And also, it's already declared as an int. Okay, well, I'm almost finished, but in Java, unlike Python, you need to use the double ampersand to represent the thought and. And you should always use curly braces with if statements, even though they're not required if you only have one line of code in the body of that if. But I like to have them there no matter what. And now I have something working. If n is between 1 and 10 inclusive, it is returning true. Let's click go and see what happens. Oh, it's missing a return statement. It says it's missing a return statement, but it has a return statement. Well, you see, right now Java thinks that it's possible to get to this point right here and then find that you don't have a return statement. Well, it is true, because if this is false, it is possible that you would be skipping over this return true and then getting here, but Java at that point isn't returning a Boolean. So let's just hardwire this for like return false and click go. Wow, now it works for a lot of test cases. Maybe you want to look at the test cases that it's not working for. 11, 9, but it's also not working where the second parameter is true in a few cases, as opposed to the first parameter being false. So let's read the rest of the specs. If outside mode is true, you have to do all this. Oh, so maybe you do like else if outside mode double equals false. In that case, you need to branch off and do something differently. Well, maybe this is the right logic, maybe it's not, but I'm going to go for it anyway. If the number is less than or equal to 1, okay, I could code that. If outside mode is true, unless it's true. I meant to say true there. And n, don't type number here. The number refers to n. Type it up as n less than or equal to 1. And the word or translates to that symbol in Java. You read that in my lecture notes. You have to repeat n greater than or equal to 10. If this is all true, the way I just represented it here, then you must return true. But that's also happening while this is true. So by using and or, you might get this to work. Return true. Now, I like to put this false outside of those two if-elses. You could possibly get this to work if you just do an else, because the only way you could trickle down this far is if both of these control expressions were false. So putting the return false in an else might be good. Okay, I'm going to go for it. I should trace this on paper and test it with various values of n myself, but since CodingBat gives me a free testing service, I'm going to click go, and it's working for some cases, but still not. So it's not working when it's 11. It should be returning a false. See, it should be returning a false, but it's returning a true. So let's trace through this with n being 11. Is this true when n is 11? No, it's not, so it skips over this. And when n is 11 and test mode, outside mode is false. Well, this is not false. False is not equal to true. So this false, ANDed with whatever this is, makes all that false. And because 11 is indeed greater than or equal to true, this true ORed with this false makes this whole expression true. Therefore, we are returning a true. But we're supposed to return a false. So we're returning a true in this test case. It's not working. See, it's red. Let's think about this. Well, maybe if you break up this if as a separate if, and then drill down into a nested if that's inside of that outer if, maybe this is the logic that we would have wanted. Now, there's probably other ways to do it if this does happen to work. But in this case, when outside mode is false, all this is becoming false, and the code is branching down outside of this if statement, and it's returning something based on this return here. Well, if outside mode is true, that's the only situation where we want to return a true in this case. So this else here, bye-bye. I think I wanted that else to be out here. Let's run this. And I'm missing a return statement again. I like to put my final returns in a method out on the main line itself, so that no matter how we got this far, when we got through all this, it's returning a false. And all of the test cases work except for this one. When you have a 9 and a true as the parameter. When you have a 9 and a true, you should be returning true. Or false, I mean, false. Somehow it's not getting here. Oh my gosh. So all of this can only happen if outside mode is false. And n is greater than 1 and n is less than 2. This is just one possible variation that works. I got all greens. It gave me a star. This might not be the most efficient logical way, but hopefully you enjoyed me analyzing the problem and turning it into pseudocode and then writing code in my own unique way. Have a great day. Later we can try to refine this and make it more elegant, but I have to go now.